we are in a tough spot, and we do have to come up with $25 million that we have to reduce.
Welcome to the Salem Business Journal Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Pion, and with me I have Lisa Harish.
Well, hello, Jesse. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you to Hotel Salem and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you guys. You make it possible. And thanks.
Nice.
Anywho, Lisa.
Yeah.
What do you do with your life?
Well, my day job, such as it is I am the executive director for Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub, and we are a nonprofit that works with the community in a variety of different ways to help to support children and families in being more ready for kindergarten.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's a hefty responsibility.
It is, and I absolutely love it.
How long have you been doing that?
Been 11 years.
11 years. I was going to say.
Yeah.
I remember we met 10 years ago. It's
Yeah.
10 years ago now.
That's exactly
so it seems like
crazy.
Yeah,
We
I know.
both have grown up.
Yeah, we're adults now. We're adulting.
We're adulting. Look
Yeah.
at us go.
But, I remember from the minute that I met you, one of the things I really liked about you was that you're a very genuine person.
Thank you.
I've always really appreciated that about you.
Thank
I think
you.
that you actually care. Which
I do.
I think you've heard a lot of my
Yeah.
rants over the
Yeah.
years about I could say this now because I'm not. I can do whatever. I can say whatever I want now. But one of the things that really bothered me was when, the teachers were always super passionate about the kids because you have to in order to do that job.
yeah.
But sometimes I would meet administrators who I felt didn't care about
Yeah.
what was going on
Yeah.
or I don't know. I just sometimes I didn't. When people's intentions weren't, hey, what's the best thing I could do for kids? And how can we help kids? That irked the crap out of me.
Absolutely.
And I remember ranting to you quite a few
Yep.
times about this.
We had some long conversations about that.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that I really can tell about you is that you genuinely just care about the kids.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I've seen through your actions, over the past decade now of you've been very consistent about, bringing it back to how does this impact kids and how can we help kids and how can we best set kids up for long-term success? And
Well, I would put that right back at you because you are somebody who cares deeply about our community and always have, and it shows in your actions as well. And I love your entrepreneurial spirit, how you bring that together in care and compassion for the community. So thank you.
well, thank you. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. This is the community that, kind of gave me a shot and to build me up. And so I feel especially, we live here. This
Yeah.
is our home.
Right.
And,
Right.
we can either, throw a fit and leave or we can say,
Yeah.
what can I do? What can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
And then, and I remember when I was, on the school board, one of the things that I noticed was some of the people who I saw have the biggest impact were sometimes business leaders who would step up to do the right thing and help the community. And I remember meeting some of them and thinking, I want to do that because if you're going to do it, let's do it right. And I think that if I'm able to in any way use anything that I'm doing with the podcast or media or the paper or just I still fight for legislation stuff just on my own.
Good for
And I think that all that stuff is so important because, I don't know, I don't have kids yet, but I sometimes think about, when I do, I'd like to raise kids in a world that's not batshit crazy. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, you got to make the difference kind of where you are and within your own sphere.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to not only see results, but you're going to have an impact and the ripple effect is definitely there. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you also serve on the school board.
I do.
What zone are you?
I am zone 1.
rethinking where that is.
At
That's
West Salem and South Salem.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's West Salem, and then that's like
Portions of
Illinois area.
Yeah, portions of.
I've always thought that was the weirdest zone.
It's an odd little zone, but I was elected this May, and of which I just am so honored to serve in this way.
Yeah.
I also had the honor and pleasure of being appointed the year prior in 24, like March or April of 24, when that seat became open. So.
What happened there? Why
It was
that?
really nice. The person, Osvaldo, he stepped down. And
Why did he step down? Was he just like...
I think he had just a lot of things going on in his life and knew he wanted to just sort of make room to take care of some personal things. And so the seat was open. And as you know, I had considered running previously.
I do remember that,
and the timing just wasn't there. So... being appointed actually was a real gift because, as you know, it takes a good year or two to kind of figure out your role as a school board director. And so it's been a great time I used that year to really learn about what I needed to do. So I felt like this year I could sort of jump right in.
Yeah. So, and being appointed, you kind of get, there's two things with that. One of them, typically when they appoint people, I'm usually like, because the person they appoint is usually some schmuck who just wants to run for another office, and I have the biggest, I don't think very highly of people who only are using that as a stepping stone.
You're not calling me a schmuck, are you?
I don't think you are. That's my entire point. Well, that's why usually when they appoint people, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong. I like those people. Some of them are still my friends and I appreciate them as people. And I see someone's got to do the job.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of people who want to be a politician.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I just think I believe public office should be held for people who are out already doing things in the community. They already have their own life, their own career, their own skill set, things that they're doing positively, and then they choose for a period of time to serve.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And because you don't need to do it. Your life would be way easier without doing it. But you're choosing to do it because you care. And that's something I remember when we talked about you running originally. I remember thinking, oh, dude, she'd be really good. So when they appointed you, I was like, that was a good pick. And so
thank you.
I was very happy about that, actually.
Thank you.
Which
I
isn't
appreciate it.
typically the case, to be honest.
Well, I like it that I made it on your list. No, it really has been an honor. And being in politics is not the goal for me. This really is it's a way for me to serve my community. And I think what I am so passionate about, I'm passionate about education, I'm passionate about children, and I'm passionate about families. And this is a role where I get to bring all of those pieces together. And it's also professionally, that's my profession as well, is working with children, families, and the community. So it's just, for me, it's sort of a natural next step. So
yeah. For sure. Well, and just with your experience, you have 11 years of experience in your role as the executive director of early learning education. Did I get the title correctly?
Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub.
Early Learning Hub.
You say the hub.
The hub.
The hub.
Sounds like a place. I sometimes
we're cool.
refer to this as the pod. No, you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
So I used to lead Young Life at McKay for a little while.
Yeah. I
And
remember you talking
whether or
about
not why they would let me lead a youth group, I don't know. But I'm a little rough around the edges, So, but we had this Friendsgiving, and I got along the best with a lot of the Islander kids because Islander culture and Native culture are kind of like hand in hand.
I get
They're
that.
like our cousins. So I had this group of Islander boys, and they were the coolest. And we had this Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
And originally, I don't know, I don't go to a lot of I used to go to a lot of social things when I first met you, but since then I've grown a little bit more introverted. And I remember getting a little bit of anxiety at the time. I was like, there's gonna be a ton of people here. I was like, but the kids really wanted me there. So usually I'm like a dog when you go into the dog park, they don't want to get in the car. But once they get to the dog park, they're like,
yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. And so anywho, so I pull up and I brought Nellies, the sparkling cider. And I remember walking in, we were at the Croc Center, and I walk in with the Martinelli's apple cider, and one of the kids yells, "He brought the Nellies!" And then we pop open, and the other adults I'm like, guys, I don't know what to do here.
I'm going to call it Nellies from now on, though.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But anyways, the hub and the pod seems like something those boys would have said. So that's what that reminded me of.
Love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your early learning hub first.
Yeah, sure.
So we wrote a couple articles this year about, well, I guess I'll preface this with, when I bought the SBJ, it was very much focused on like a lot of logistical business things, which is great. And we still do some of that. But I think I changed kind of the mission statement since I've, took the helm and changed in our mission statement into helping make our community a good place to own a business and have a family.
Yes.
Because why are we in business?
Right.
We're only in business like to do three things, right? First is to feed our families, to like have money so then like we can pay for our life and live. 2, to help our employees be able to pay for their lives.
Right.
And, like to employ them so then they could feed their families. One of the biggest responsibilities I had was when I started hiring people. And it's stressful. Like one of my favorite guys, he's my admin guy. He just got married on Monday.
Congratulations.
And, yeah. And so I had to sit there and be like it just hit me. And I was like, man, like him getting married and like he goes home to his wife and like I'm responsible for like if I don't do well and I don't perform, then like he doesn't get to like go home and like take his girl out or like do this or that. You know what I mean? So like there's a big responsibility there. And then the third thing is, doing cool things, like building cool stuff and doing cool things for the community. Making the community better. Because all those things lead to the and we can have some fun along the way. And so, along with that, right, I've realized that I have a bigger responsibility of making sure that making the community better piece, right? And that's something I've really tried to work on. And so I've been hitting a lot more on issues that affect families and that affect our community as a whole. I try to stay out of social issues for the most part.
Sure.
But if it's a social issue that I can tie to like the economy or to business or to those kind of worlds that I live in, then I typically will. And one of the things that we wrote about was early childhood, like daycare and education.
Childcare.
Childcare. There it is. I used to be so good at the acronyms.
Well,
just lost it. But so early childcare, and it's kind of crazy when you look at the stats because like Marion and Polk County, not even Marion and Polk County, I think it goes to kind of the valley as a whole is kind of struggling in the sense of having affordable childcare, which I mean the country as a whole that's kind of a nationwide issue.
Yep. But
specifically the valley has even less than most of the rest of the state. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Actually, pretty much the whole state is considered a childcare desert.
Yeah.
Which is where there's
that's what we wrote about.
Just not enough childcare to meet the needs of the number of children and the needs of families. Over the last really 10 to 13 years, the state has been investing heavily in subsidized childcare, subsidized preschool programs to help alleviate that. The good news is we're seeing the impact of that, and actually,
I talk about the state's subsidization
of childcare. But what we're seeing is that because of that, we are attracting more childcare providers, which is great. They're higher quality, which is also really great.
That's a good thing.
And because of the subsidization, they are also more affordable for families. And so that investment in the workforce and that investment in bringing others along is having an impact. And in fact, our desert status, if you will, has gone down.
That's good. Are you talking about as a state or like our community?
Both, but in particular within our community, particularly in the 3 to 5 year old, where we still really struggle is that 0 to 3 or infant and toddler care is what we often call it, and so there's just not enough. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and one is around it. Being a childcare business owner is such a razor thin margin.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because you've got to pay staff for that. The state to be licensed, you have to have a particular ratio of adults to children. And so that increases your staffing needs. And then just running a business, the cost of food.
I would assume insurance for that kind of business would probably be fairly expensive.
Is a lot. It is that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to help solve that.
Raise up the issues. I guess.
There just are a lot of factors that go into that. And I think also, even with the increase of offering some subsidized programs for families, it's still not enough. And it's only up to 200% of the poverty level that those subsidized programs will offer. And so then what we're finding, the biggest gap is for families who are at 201% and above. Childcare is expensive. It's anywhere from
expensive.
$1,200 to $1,800 a month, depending on the location, depending on the age of your child, and that's a lot of money for families.
Yeah.
And the economics around that for working families, often you have to make a choice.
Well, how much did you say it is a month typically?
Anywhere from 12 to 18, and it sort of varies. Like it's not.
Would that be for like somebody working full time?
That's for the cost to the family per child.
Yeah. For like to cover basically, I go to work, I tell my kid to follow daycare, I pick them up when I get done.
Yeah.
That's a crazy expense because, think about it. You have your regular life expenses, right? And then you add on an additional $1,800. Who has an additional $1,800?
And if you have more than one child.
Yeah, that's a crazy cost. So how much does the state subsidize, do you know? With their program. So their program covers like the lower income level.
Right. So there are a couple of different programs, not to get too technical, but there's one called Preschool Promise, and that goes up to 200% of the federal poverty level. And those programs are found often in schools. They're found in childcare centers. They're also found in childcare homes. And so, but the state pays a per child cost, and it's about $1,600 a month, $1,700 a month. That doesn't go to the family. That goes to the provider to provide that cost for families.
Yeah, because they pay the provider directly.
Correct.
I believe. Yeah.
Correct. Then there's other programs, Head Start.
But also, I would like to touch on that because with that, because I know a little bit about that subsidization program. I dated a kid at one point in my life, and I learned all about it.
Yeah.
Because they adjust the amount based off of your need. So for example, like if you're not working full time, you get less. Or like I think she was going to school, and so they helped out a little bit more because there was time for school. So like when I learned about it, and I could be wrong, but from what I saw when I learned about the program, I actually was like, oh, that's a pretty cool program.
Yeah.
And it's good because like, especially during COVID, right? I think everyone, even me, right? We all have like a little bit of a suspicion when it comes to like money because they were just throwing money or left and right without checking. Yeah. Whereas like I think with that program that the state does of subsidizing childcare, actually they adjust it according to the work, and it seems like it's done fairly well.
Yeah. So that policy that you're talking about is employee related. ERDC.
Yes.
So it's a different program.
There's multiple programs?
Oh my, yes.
Oh goodness.
Because we can't make things super simple.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Right. So the program that you're talking about is employment related daycare, ERDC. And that over the last 2 bienniums has had what I consider a significant positive policy shift in making it more useful for families. So it sounded like your friend at the time was also going to school. In the olden days, if you will, ERDC didn't cover if there was somebody going to school. And
maybe they didn't. I don't know. Well, I remember. Right, I thought I remembered that happening.
There were a lot of really good policy shifts to make it a better, more useful tool for families.
Yeah.
And which is great because we saw a lot more people who qualified for employment-related daycare and really needed it. The challenge is it's really expensive for the state, and so now we're seeing sort of a little bit of a regression in that because the funding just isn't quite there to keep up with that. The program that I was talking about earlier is Preschool Promise, which school program.
Oh, I see.
It's very much
specifically for a certain age gap.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's just for 3 and 5-year-olds. And it's very similar and you're familiar with Head Start and Oregon pre-kindergarten.
Yeah.
So, that's a subsidized preschool program, which are specific hours during the day.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. I've heard that Head Start and some of these other preschool programs have really long wait lists.
And that's what we've been trying to do is to eliminate some of those wait lists.
So what can you do? Because just so you know, I live at the top of the rumor mill.
Oh, great!
with what I do.
Let's just dispel all those rumors.
Yeah. Well, people always come to me and like tell me things.
Confirm or
I usually
deny.
don't say nothing because I don't know. But what's the good part about that, right? Is that it's things like that sometimes do come up, and that's one thing that has come up quite a bit. Is that that like there's really long wait times and it's hard to get in and it's hard for parents to navigate that. And so like, especially like people without guidance, I think that's one of the harder things. Cause for example, for me, like growing up, like, I don't know, without parents, it's like I ended up getting adopted and those parents were like, helped me with a lot of stuff, but it was still like before and after I didn't ask them for help because like I didn't know how. So a lot of times like I was still doing things on my own. And like, I don't know, I just remember getting into college, like navigating college stuff was really hard. Getting like just regular life things, like figuring out who do I talk to? Where do I go? And especially so I could imagine add a kid on top of that.
Right.
On top of that stress, without the support.
We have something that we call coordinated enrollment. It's not the most creative title, but this is where families come to us and they tell us what type of preschool. And so typically we work in the 3 and 5-year-old sphere and looking specifically at preschool, not necessarily child care where it's just I'm going to work and I need to drop my child off. This is about preschool. So families can tell us a little bit about what they're looking for. And then we help them based on what they're looking for, based on their income eligibility, find the subsidized preschool program that will work best for them. And so that could be Head Start or Oregon pre-kindergarten. It could be Preschool Promise. And so we help and then link them up with the program, whether it's in a center or at a school district or in a family home that offers these services.
Oh, cool.
And along with that, because again, it's that navigation, like how is it that we can know what might be available in the community.
Well, especially like if it's your first time being a parent.
Exactly. There's so much to do. And, families, I think, often really struggle with, how can they best meet their child's needs? They're having to, not only put food on the table, pay rent, and do all those things, and then navigate all those things. So we also have family navigators that can help where a family might be struggling with something, and then we can get them connected into the services that will help them the most.
Do you connect them into like other nonprofits and stuff that kind of cover those bases?
We sure do.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So
'cause that's one thing that, we talked about this a little bit before we started. Whereas like there's so many people doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like we have like how many homeless nonprofits in town? Like 3,700.
Yeah.
And then we have so many of them overlap where it's like you'd be better off just working together and then we'd have less admin costs.
Right.
But instead we all just have the ego of needing to do our own thing.
Right.
So
well, that's our goal. We want to add value to the process. We're not here to provide all of those things. We're here to help families find what they need.
Where to go. Yeah.
Where to go.
Well, because for example, with family services, right, there's family building blocks. There's like Liberty House if they need, on the other side of things, or there's, what else is the Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
And I don't know, 100 others.
Yeah.
Which they're all good, like really good programs.
Absolutely,
but it's like,
fabulous.
if you're a parent, how do you know where to go or what to do? I didn't even know, like me, I'm fairly involved and I know a lot of things, but, actually I don't know anything. But
you do.
I think that, even then, like I just learned about garden services last year. And so this year, earlier this year is when I learned about garden services and what they do, and so like there's a lot of people who like, they're just trying to live life. And so while you and me, we've been like involved in like, this is like, we've been kind of in the trenches for a long time. So for us, it's like, family building blocks does this. But to a regular person who just had a kid for the first time,
right?
They've seen maybe the logo, but don't
right.
know what they
But
do.
it doesn't
And-
really mean, yeah.
Yeah, and so
And
to have someone help navigate
Yeah.
them, I think is probably really good.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And like I said, we really help families find that subsidized program and help that enrollment so that we're ultimately reducing wait lists as well, because we don't want wait lists.
Yeah.
We want families to find a place and do all those things. And then also connecting with other programs.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got a younger child, so we can connect them with family building blocks as another way, because it's...
Do you also help people, because kind of what I heard you saying was like you're connecting, when a family comes to you, it's like, hey, I really need daycare or something, then you'd be like, okay, well, let me connect you with the right spot. And so maybe like the one place they were going to has this long of a wait list, but then you guys know of a couple places that have this long of a wait
Right.
list. So then you can get them in, you
Right.
help feed them into a different line, so to speak. Like at the
Yeah.
grocery store, there's 2 aisles. One of them's
Right.
really long, one of them's shorter. You're like, hey, let's go to this aisle over
Let's
here.
go over, yeah.
Is that kind of what you guys,
It
is that
is.
a part of it?
That's definitely
Okay.
a part of it. Primarily, I would say the foot forward is around those subsidized preschool programs.
Yes.
But then we also help families navigate and get to other programs that would also meet their needs.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thought on this. This popped in my head. So recently I've been kind of honing in on the homeless issue.
Yeah.
So as you know, that's
yeah.
something that
I saw your podcast with DJ.
yeah,
Very
that's something
nice.
that I'm, very passionate about. And because I was on one of the original executive committees for the
Yeah, I
Homeless
remember
Alliance.
that. I remember.
Yeah, back in 2018, I think. 2017,
Kind of right at the
2018.
beginning, right?
Yeah. And, just because of my experience being homeless 2 years before I got
Right.
into office.
It was-
And one of the things that's something I'm super passionate about. And I was talking with this guy named Josh Lair. Do you know Josh Lair?
I don't.
So he was also on that same committee with me when we first
Okay.
started. So it was me, Christy, Kathy Clark, Josh Lair. I think Commissioner Kevin Cameron was on that one.
Okay.
But anywho, there was a good group of folks on this committee, and Josh Lair was a part of it. He had been through, I believe it was the UGM's program,
Okay.
and got himself out of homelessness, and because he had recent past lived experience, he served on the committee in that role. And just over the course of the last 10 years, he's really grown as a leader and as helping
that's awesome.
get people out of
Yeah.
homelessness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things, so I went out with, it was me. Do you know Jennifer Benavides? I may have butchered her last name.
I don't know.
She is head boss lady at MAPS now, who does insurance.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
she's
Okay.
super awesome.
Okay, yeah.
And let's see, Manny Martinez and Josh. There's a small group of us. Elizabeth Infante, she does real estate. But there's a small group of us, and they invited me to go out there with them, and we went to go talk to some of the homeless folks, because there's what we hear in the paper.
Yeah.
And there's what we get told is, when you're sitting in a boardroom, and sometimes that doesn't match reality.
Right.
And so we're like, well, let's just go talk to some folks. And so we did. And there was this girl named Carmen. Did you see the story that we wrote?
No,
I'm gonna be releasing more about this.
Okay.
Because it's a really cool story, and then two, it kind of shows a program that reminds me kind of what you do, but for homelessness.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Josh really wants to implement this program where essentially he would go in and he would have a team, and they navigate people out of homelessness.
Great.
So how you guys help
Yeah.
people navigate early
Yeah.
learning, he's trying to do a similar thing with homelessness, which doesn't necessarily exist right now. Because right now there's all these individual programs,
Yeah.
and there's the Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance, but they help the back end.
Right.
What he's wanting to do is a program that helps the front end.
Yeah.
And recently, because there wasn't much support in Marion and Polk County before, he's been doing that in Lane County, helping out
okay.
Eugene.
Okay.
And from what I hear, it's been a super successful program. And in just the couple hours that we did it here, there's this girl named Carmen who was pregnant. We met her in front of Rite Aid. And Elizabeth Infante and Jennifer Benavides, they helped, and Josh's help,
Yeah.
they helped navigate this girl into a program and now she's been in that program successfully doing it. There's been bumps in the road,
Yeah.
but having that navigator there helped get her out and get her
That's
plugged into these
wonderful.
programs. Yeah.
That's
and so
wonderful.
do you think a program like that, which I also understand, while that sounds amazing, there's also a cost.
Yes.
Do you think
there
that
is.
the cost of having a program like that would be beneficial to
I
the
definitely
community?
do. I definitely do, because I think it's filling a niche that it isn't available.
Yeah.
And it is supporting all the other programs to do what they do best, which is serve families. And so if we can reduce that burden to the providers, whether it's in preschool or childcare or it's in homelessness services or anything else, great. Also, the benefit to the family or to the individual, I think, is just absolutely incredible. Just taking that stress off. And when I think about, building community, that's what we're here to do. And it's that sense of connection that I think is missing from today's world often. That's that
like
real
the relationship.
And that relationship and how and where do I fit in? And where am I going to get my needs met? So that in our case, it's so that our children can be successful and thrive and enter school ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also just from an efficiency standpoint, right?
Yeah.
As a taxpayer,
right?
If we're funding these programs, we'd like them to be ran well,
right? Yeah.
And so whether we're donating privately or paying through taxes, either way, maybe having, it sounds like, because you guys are kind of like the oil in the engine, making sure everything's running smooth.
Right.
And I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool program you're running.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That's great.
For sure. Let's go a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into this education world.
Okay.
Literacy.
Yes.
So right now, I believe math and literacy numbers for third grade is supposed to be coming out soon, isn't it?
Well, the
Has it come
numbers
out?
came out.
They did.
And they don't look great.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What'd they say?
Only about a third of our kids are reading proficiently at grade level or third grade level.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting stat, right? Because now, I don't know if they do this anymore, but prisons used to judge how many prison beds to buy based off of third grade reading levels.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And so
I've heard that.
And so I think that whether or not that is a direct correlation, right? The important part is it's not a good correlation.
It's not a good correlation. And I think for me, the literacy scores that did come out, and you can look at them online and you can look at them on the district website. You can look at them on the state level website. They're not great all over the state. And Salem Kaiser is really not doing well. When we think just about Salem Kaiser, but that goes for all the other districts here in our region as well.
How are we doing in comparison to the state?
We are just under.
So the state, aren't we ranked 49th?
Well,
overall in education.
Well, in education, I don't know how they ranked on third grade literacy specifically.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But suffice it to say, we are not doing well. Mm-hmm. And for me, Jesse, this has got to be a real call to action for the whole community.
Yeah.
This is not just a school district responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. And so when I think about particularly in that 0 to 5 age range, which is where, we focus our attention, there are many things that we can do to help to support our families and having access to materials and resources that will help to support them. And then also that we can train our early educators, those who are providing care, like in a preschool or in a childcare setting, helping to ensure that they have the materials that they need. So that's some of the things, and we can talk about specifics around some of those pieces that we're doing. I would say also this is the community has got to help to support literacy. And business owners are, a really huge, important detail or important component of that.
Well, I guess I have a couple of different questions about it. One of them is it a resource problem or is it kind of a culture / parenting problem? Because, most kids have access to a phone or an iPad or a book. Mm-hmm. And the ones who don't, you can go get books. And so, it's not like you don't have access to literature.
Well, I don't think
it's any. Am I wrong?
It's not any one thing.
Okay.
I will say, particularly in lower income households. Yeah. In fact, we did a survey. The number that I'm going to tell you is an old number, but it does line up with some national research. right around 20%. 20% of families in lower income families have fewer than 12 books in the home, period. So let that sink in. That's not just children's books. That's books overall.
Wow, that's interesting.
And I mean, yes, you could say, families aren't putting priority on accessing those materials, or, you could put all kinds of value judgment on it.
Are they including Kindles in this?
Well, I'm not going to put value judgment on all of that, but I'm
enough.
saying it's that access to materials that I think as a community, frankly, that's an easy one to help out with. I mean, when you think about the little free libraries that have been going up and are very popular, making sure that those are filled with books.
Yeah.
We also run the program. I don't know if you've heard about Dolly Parton or heard of Dolly Parton. Have you?
She has.
I know.
She's like an actor.
Like, just an American icon.
Just an American icon. Yes.
Right.
She's wonderful.
So
her stories, hearing her talk.
Oh my
goodness. I love, she's really cool.
She's amazing. So she started in, I think it was like 93, started the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library.
She started that in 93?
I believe it was 93.
See, I heard about it a couple years ago. Yeah. And I thought that was such a cool program. I didn't realize
she started it just in her hometown, so just very small. And this was a tribute to her father, who was illiterate and was always one of his big regrets, and also is something that she saw him struggle with her and his whole life. And so she wanted to do something to give back to the community. And so fast forward, here we are in 2025. It is now a program, as actually part of the group that helped to make sure that all of Oregon was covered by the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And then for here in Marion and Polk County, we as a nonprofit are what they call the affiliate for Dolly Parton Imagination Library.
Oh, cool.
So we are doing absolutely everything we can to raise money for that, because it's free to families, and the Dollywood Foundation covers most of the cost, but we have to come up with some of the cost as well as an affiliate, and then the state is also kicking in a little bit of money. So it's a good value proposition for getting involved.
Well, how can people help out with that? Just by donating money, donating books? Can they donate books?
No, you cannot donate books. So the program.
Well, I thought the whole problem was that there's a lack of books.
I know, but here's how this program solves.
Right.
It is a program where children ages 0 up to the age of 5, they are mailed a book a month.
Oh, I see.
To their home. And the great thing is the Dollywood Foundation handles all of that. So we're not labeling books and putting them in the mail.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
She's doing all of that work for us. And so they manage all the databases and all the things and selecting the books and getting them sent out. So
that's cool. Is there a local program where, like, if someone has, if there's a grandma in our community who listens to this, who has a bunch of kids' books, that they could donate it and it would get to kids?
So a couple of things that I would suggest. One is little free libraries are popping up everywhere. I know we have supported money getting started. If people wanted to donate books, we don't normally do this, but I would take any book, because then I would make sure that they get back out into the community in those ways. And many nonprofit organizations also accept books. That's an important component for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. As long as, I know that people would be like, well, why do you want money? You don't want books.
No, right. Yeah.
But I know it seems like
that's how that program specifically is.
Well, it seems like the reason why that might be a good thing. And here's what came in my head is, typically I would assume, I don't actually know this, but I would assume that, like, the books that she picks out to send them are probably good for their age level. And then also, like, with a strategy and goal in mind of helping them learn how to read.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of the books, well, the first book that everybody gets no matter what is The Little Engine That Could, because that's her favorite book.
That's a good book.
So it is. It's an awesome book. And then you're exactly right. So they curate the list based on the age of the child. And so when you sign your child up, you have to put the birth date in, and then they will send the age appropriate books. And they are stellar books. They are the list is curated by national literacy experts, and so they know what they're doing. And they're super high quality books.
Yeah.
The other piece that I like about them, the board books, they don't do this for the infants, but on all the other books, there's a little book jacket on there, and there's a little letter from Dolly and some age-specific ways to engage with your child on that book. So
That's
it's
fair.
super cool.
You know, I'd probably trust the national literacy experts more than the statewide ones
Okay.
in the current moment.
All right.
So I mean, that's probably a good thing that it is. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, just general population,
Yeah.
you know, if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
like, because I mean, nationally, how are we doing nationally on third grade literacy? What's the average?
You know, that's a good
Rate?
question. That's
we
a
know?
good question. And
Let's look it up.
You could look that up. I don't have my phone on me.
I don't know. I don't know
I'll
if
let
it'll be.
you look it up.
I don't know if it would be accurate because
Yeah.
the internet. 67 to 70% of students.
Yeah.
What are we at?
We're right around 30.
30% that can? I thought it was 30% that can't.
No.
We have about 30% of kids that can read by third grade, like proficiently.
It's a call to action, Jesse.
What? We're like, okay, so let's just say, because that said like 65. Let me re-look at the number. Okay, so here it says around 67 to 70% of students are meeting third grade level reading standards in the U.S. And this is saying national third grade literacy in the U.S. is a concern, showing that 67 to 70% of students meeting third grade reading level.
Yeah.
And we're at
So-
30%.
Correct.
That is crazy.
It is crazy. And again, I think it is something that we all play a role in, making sure that we're encouraging books, like give books as a birthday gift for those birthday parties that you attend. Make time to volunteer in your school or at a local program and engage with kids around stories.
Well, are we as for example, as a school district I haven't been as involved in the last few years, you know, but do we have, like, I understand that the school district can only do so much.
Yeah.
Right. They can't raise your kids for you.
Right.
But, you know, they in the time that they have them, they can do what they can do.
Yeah.
And they have to meet certain state expectations. I totally get that.
Yep.
But one piece where I feel like the school district could play a role, right, is they're the literacy experts, not parents. Parents are not literacy experts.
No.
They're just trying to raise their kid the best they can.
Exactly.
So is there a way that has the school district talked about, okay, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Here's a strategy.
Yep.
And so then, like, we can point parents in a direction. Like, so when we say, hey, go volunteer at your kids at school, like, there's a program that your parents can get involved in to help kids read. That doesn't cost, isn't just throwing money at a problem,
Right.
but it's like actual human, physical people helping kids go learn how to read. Like, is there a program like that at all, or has there been discussion of it?
There are a lot of resources. So now we're talking about Salem Kaiser's.
Salem Kaiser as a whole. Yeah.
Right. So as a school district, I just want to make sure that I'm very clear how I'm answering that, because in my day job, I represent Marion and Polk counties, of which there's
that's fair. Well, we can talk about Marion and Polk County. Yeah.
Well, I think we can do both. But there are definitely resources, and our school districts are really concerned about these numbers.
Yeah.
All school districts in our region and Salem Kaiser. So everybody is doing what this has been a wake up call for our schools.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of attention paid to the curriculum and a lot of attention paid to how children are taught. And then also, I think the third leg to that stool is how are we engaging with families to bring them along as partners? And so I think there is a shift in the culture around that. Now, when I think about Salem Kaiser, of which I'm more familiar with some of the specifics, our district is doing a lot to help to support literacy, not just in third grade, but beyond. There is curriculum adoption that is happening this year. So we've got a couple of different curriculums. They've narrowed it down to 2 different curriculums.
Okay.
And so they're being piloted. And so later on, or in 2026, end of the school year, we as a school board will actually take the recommendation of the committees who have been working on this and adopting a new curriculum. For our elementary schools, in January, for 3 days, that last week in January, our elementary schools are going offline, if you will. And all of our teachers have a 3-day mandatory training specifically on the science of reading. So this isn't on the curriculum that will be selected, because the curriculum that they're looking at is based on the science of reading. But what the district is doing is investing a lot of time and money into supporting our teachers having some of the basics. Because what we also know over the last 20 years, I mean, you know how curriculum or the ways of teaching kind of they change, right? And over the last 20 years, the state as a whole has shifted the literacy policy to be more whole language based.
What does that mean, whole language based?
So I'm not a literacy expert, so I'm not going to go very deep into that.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's really around sort of looking at the context of the words around and the context of what is there and making meaning out of the whole, rather than what we have with the science of reading is really more around phonemic awareness.
So what I'm hearing you say is, when we're talking about, what was the word you used? Whole language?
Whole language. That's just
whole language literacy?
That's a general.
Okay. Yeah. So like just regular, like let's just use the word regular literacy. I don't know the terms. Right. But so regular literacy would be, can I physically read the words correctly? And then whole language literacy would be, okay, yes, I can read the sentence and I can read it, but like, do I actually understand what it means and like what?
Right, so that's reading comprehension, right? Yeah. So there's a way to put print together in a way that makes sense in our brains, and like how do we connect those words and those sounds together? And then there's around how do I comprehend what is there? And just different ways to teach it. And it's not that it's bad, it's just a different way to teach it.
Yeah.
Now we're shifting back to sort of the science of reading, or again, more phonemic, and really breaking those pieces down so that you know how words are formed, which gets to the how to engage with reading, and then adding in some of that comprehension piece. And so it's just a little bit of a shift in how we're approaching it. So the time in January is to really get down to some of those basics. And for some teachers, this might be, again, sort of the approach is a little bit different, because that's not maybe how they were taught when they were in college, particularly if they're newer in their career. And again, I'm not casting any dispersions. It's just sort of making sure that we as a district are really in an alignment with how we are approaching literacy and literacy development.
Question for you. So I guess I have a couple questions. One of them is, when we were talking about things that could help, because we were talking about how teaching changes. If teaching changes and the way that we're teaching changes, I feel like it sometimes it can be useful, adapting to the way the world works.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I feel like, like when Apple does an update on the iPhone and it didn't need the update, it just does the update, and we all get annoyed by it, and we're like, why did you do this? Which I think a lot of people are experiencing recently with some of the newer ones, right? I feel like sometimes we tend to fix things that didn't need fixing. For example, when we were talking about, what could people do to help with the literacy thing, the thing we're talking about was books. Books have been around.
You're right.
For how long?
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes, do you think that maybe, if we just go back to the basics?
Well, I think there is some of I think there is some of that going back to, but I think it's also doing it within the context that in the context of the world we're in. Like, we're not going to get away from tablets. We're not going to get away from phones.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
Right.
It happened. It already did happen.
We could fight it, but you know what? We would lose. And so how is it that we can provide literacy-rich tools for families? One thing that we are testing right now with, again, I'm going back to as an early learning hub, one thing that we're testing with the school district, or Salem Kaiser School District, and with the YMCA is a program called VOOKS, and that's books with a V.
Okay.
And
are these like French books?
No, they're not.
Oh.
But that's kind of cool, though. But these are animated stories that are built on the science of reading. There are many programs out there. I know this, but this is one in particular that we're testing because it has that family component to it.
What does that mean? So an animated story, is that like a movie or like a video?
No, it is not a movie. It is literally a book.
Like a physical book?
Well, it's on an iPad.
Okay.
Or a computer.
Yeah.
But they're built like a book. And then the child can then follow along with that.
So like it'll light up like the words and stuff. Does that? Okay.
And then also you can record. So like a parent or a caregiver or maybe a grandma and grandpa that live far away, they can actually record those stories. And
that's cool.
there are different ways that you can actually then manipulate and kind of work in with the materials. But we've added lessons into that as well that could be used in the classroom. But where I think is going to have the biggest bang is with families to again engage with your child on a book, but it is on an iPad.
Yeah.
And also we've got physical books to go with those as well.
I have a very strong feeling, and I want to hear your thought on this. Like, what's changed? Because this is kind of a low point for our third grade literacy, is it not?
Yeah, it is. Although I will say, as a district, the pandemic did not do us any favors in any of our scores, including third grade literacy. So we've seen a real dip. What we saw this year with the release of the third grade literacy scores is that turn up. So it's not a big turn up, but Jesse, you know too, when you as somebody who watches those trends,
for sure,
the hardest one to make is that trend going from down to up.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, as a board member and as a community member, I am really confident in the work and the gravity of the situation and the work that we're all taking, both in Salem Kaiser as well as other districts, to help improve that.
Well, what do you think outside of what the district can do? Because I'm a strong believer, and I know you are as well, of not just relying on other people to solve our problems.
Yeah.
And I know quite a few people who are parents, and they like their child being able to read is a very big concern to them, and they're not high income by any means, and they spend a lot of time like reading to their kids and reading with their kids. Do you feel like that's what's gone down? What do you think it is about our community or like Oregon as a whole, right? Because it's not like Oregon's doing much better. Right. That is impacting third grade reading so much. Because if the national third grade reading level, right, we have about 67 to 70% of kids hitting that. We're at 30%. So that means that like us as a community, which I don't think we're that much below the state, are we?
Yeah, no, we're not that much below.
Yeah. And so what do you think it is?
I think again, I'm going to say it's a lot of things. I think in our society, I do think that there's a lot more reliance on cell phones or tablets or what have you, which again, I'm not saying it's bad. I love my phone as well. But I think what happens is often that becomes a solitary piece. And so a child may have something, but they don't have anything sort of to connect it. But think about it when you've got a book with a little kid, like you're sitting down with them, you're reading it, you're acting out the voices, you're together, you're creating that space. I think that can get overlooked. Not in all cases, certainly. I don't want to suggest that, but I think that is, when I think about a societal thing, I think that's an issue. I think, again, sort of access to books. We talked about already, the cost of books are not cheap.
No,
they're expensive, right?
Yep.
And our libraries do their absolute best to keep their doors open and all the things, but they're expensive. And so being able to purchase books that's a luxury item, or can be a luxury item. So, I think removing some of those barriers to provide access to books. And I think, language also plays a role in this, in our community, particularly our 0 to 5, where we are predominantly a Hispanic community, and when we look at our children's population, right? And so language plays a big role in that. I think that also has an impact on testing. And
how much do you think that language plays an impact locally?
Well, I think where we need to do a better job is around some of the assessments that we offer to children who speak other languages.
Yeah.
State testing is only in English, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Well,
but
this was an issue, when I was on the school board, and that was like 10 years ago. Well, I mean, then when I started, so I guess 6 years ago since then. And so it's like, if this was an issue then, and we knew it was an issue then, and it's an issue now, and we know it's an issue now, like the way that we're doing the tests is what you're saying, right? Well, and so like, why aren't we, why is nothing getting done? Like who's the person that we got to hold accountable and say, hey, let's fix this? Because I am aware, because one of the stats that I found really interesting when I was on the school board was graduation rates. And we were looking at graduation rates by race. And you saw a drop between the white students graduating and the Hispanic students graduating, right? And people were like, oh, there's a disparity, it's racism. But then like when you really break it apart, the Hispanic graduation rate, what was really interesting, and this is the stat that I found that I was like, I brought up in the school board meeting because I wanted to solve the problem. Yeah. And when we broke apart and I don't know if this is still the case, at the time I remember this being the case, was when you broke apart the Hispanic graduation rate and by language, then you could see a difference between those who were bilingual, those who like came in later, and language seemed to be by far the biggest impact because we have a lot of students come here, 12, 13, younger, you know what I mean? And so depending on what age they come in and they don't know English, that has a severe impact on your ability to learn. And
it does. And I think again, just as a district, I think we are doing a much stronger job in, like, we've got the binational literacy seal for graduates. We're doing, I think, a better job of helping children embrace both of their languages. And that's been an evolution.
The school district during COVID decided to, after I left and before you got on, made the decision to spend short-term COVID money on long-term employment, which was a choice. I don't know where the thinking is there, but it happened, and what's done is done. Now we're facing the situation where we have, you said it was a $25 million shortfall in the budget. Is that correct?
For this for next school year, yes.
Yes.
So
okay.
26, 27, yes.
Okay. And we're going into a place where the school district is going to have to be negotiating with not the classified union. What's the other union? Licensed?
So we are not, it's with our classified staff. So with the licensed union, we have an agreement.
That's already done?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're in a position where the school district is going to be negotiating with our classified staff, correct? Now, when we're looking at the past year, a few years, right, the classified staff, and if the numbers are incorrect, please correct me on it, and I'll fix what I say. But what I believe to be true, right, is the numbers on the increase of wages from classified staff has been up about 27% since 2020. Now, when you look at the overall wage increases of the private sector or just the country as a whole, let's just look at our state as a whole, it's not even close to that. And at the same time, costs have gone up for literally everybody. The last 4 years have been so hard. And I'm not trying to diminish anybody's pain or the increase. In fact, I don't think we pay teachers what we should in this country.
We do not. We do not.
But what my point of saying this is, I think we're in a spot right now as a community where money's tight for literally everybody. There's not going to be a levy I just don't think a levy is going to be what's going to happen.
No, I don't think so.
And so we're just facing the reality of where we're at, right? I feel like the district's kind of in a position where people they have a choice, right? The classified staff can either accept a less of an increase, knowing that over the past 5 years they've seen a much larger increase than the rest of most people in the country, and accept less of a pay increase so that way we can keep more people employed, or really fight tooth and nail on that, and then the district has to fire people because they can't afford. Obviously, they can't afford to keep them. And like I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So we are in a tough spot, and we do have to come up with $25 million that we have to reduce. So the staffing choices that were made that predated you and I or not a part of us, that could have happened. We also are seeing a decrease of enrollment overall, and that impacts the dollars that are coming in. And so we're seeing a lot of movement in that way. And we as a district are really taking a look at absolutely every nickel that we spend and how can we do things in a more streamlined way. The district is been going through some budgetary, trimming absolutely everything, and are very committed to making reductions outside of the classroom, so that we are not impacting classrooms. One thing that we're very clear as a board is we don't want to jeopardize the education opportunities for children.
I would agree. Kids come first.
And we don't want to lessen the school year. We don't want to lessen we already are the shortest school year in the country. We can't afford that education sacrifice. So it's, and we have a budget that is 95% people. And that
is that the number? 95% people?
95% are people. So we've got some hard choices.
Yeah.
And, we have made an option is to look at, the COLA that the union did bargain for. They received it. Could we take a lesser COLA and then that on top of, some other, reductions on the administrative and district side and other things. And so we'll see what happens. But I think, our intent with that is to say we really need to do things differently. And we don't have the money that as a school district that we need just to support everything, and certainly not to the level that our children and families deserve, but we have what we have, and we got to do what we got to do. So,
we'll see. Just so you know, I do not envy the position that you're in, right, at all.
Thank you.
And I think that one thing I want to touch on is right when I was on the school board, having this conversation, people would flip.
Yeah,
I think our political climate's become a little bit less toxic, which is good. But it's also, it's because we have to create spaces like this where we have to talk about these things.
Right.
And there were other issues too that we haven't talked about that we're going to need to talk about because if we're ever going to turn the ship around or if we ever are going to get third grade literacy levels up, if we're ever going to be able to figure out the budget issue or how do we help make sure young parents can take care of their kids, we're going to have tough conversations about things like this.
Right.
And in the fact that you're willing to do it, I really appreciate.
Well, you're welcome.
And I know it's going to be tough, and no matter what you do, because there's not really. I think
it has to be. We've got tough decisions to make this year, but we can't just focus on what is right in front of us.
Yes,
we have to think about the longer term.
You got to think ahead.
Yeah, we got to think ahead, and so that's.
And we have to think longer than your term.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I know that you do very well.
No,
but
it's
what I've experienced and seen other people who are on the school board or in office. Sometimes they're focused so much on looking good by the time they leave.
No, I think of it as sort of generational. We have to focus on the next generation, and so that's where I like to choose my energy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, thanks guys for listening. Thank you again to Hotel Salem and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate you guys.